Hey, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here in my kitchen, and I'm getting ready to unload my dehydrator from some quinoa and some brown rice pasta that I dehydrated, and I thought I would show you that process and also give a few tips about the dehydration process itself. Now, I'm trying to streamline a lot of this as much as possible, so hopefully I'm not skipping steps at the expense of instruction that you may actually need in this process. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below, but for now we're just going to show the unpacking, and I'll sort of talk about how you cook and load and stuff, and I don't think that that's something that you need to see, but go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong down below. But let's go ahead and get to this process. Okay, so here I am, and I actually use my Nesco American Harvest dehydrator for this go around. I've been using this style of dehydrator for, I don't even want to put a number of years on it. It's been a very long time. But the thing is, I did actually just recently get an Excalibur, thinking it's going to be an upgrade. I'm still warming up to it. I'm not used to it. I'm used to this one. I still really love this style of dehydrator, and I purposefully did use this one as well because I think this is more accessible to most people, especially considering that you can often find them used on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist for, you know, $20. I got this one, I believe, was actually free from one of my friends because it was one of those things where they were like, I don't want to use it, do you want it? And I said, absolutely I do. But the other dehydrator that I have, I got on Facebook Marketplace for $20. So they run for a very long time, and they're just great. So I have absolutely loved this style of dehydrator, and I don't think that for most people you need something fancier than this. One thing I will say about the Excalibur is that it is really nice that you can dehydrate such a huge quantity of items. However, some of the accessories for that dehydrator are more expensive. This one ends up being expandable. You can put up to 12 trays onto this dehydrator, which still won't hold as much as a full Excalibur 9 tray, but it's still a lot. Honestly, filling the Excalibur 9 tray sometimes is like overwhelming because it's a lot of work. But let's go ahead and actually look inside now. So this has been dehydrating for a while. You see this is my quinoa up top. Basically, I just cooked quinoa the way you cook quinoa. I did it in the Instant Pot. So in the Instant Pot, it's a 1-to-1 ratio of water to grain. For 2 minutes is what I do. Other people say 1, I do 2 minutes. But on the stovetop, you would just do 1 part quinoa to 2 parts water and cook it for 15 or 20 minutes. Like bring it to a boil and then let it simmer 15 minutes or so. And then you'll have quinoa. And then once that's nice and cool, you can go ahead and start putting it on the trays. So I did 2 cups of quinoa. Oh yeah, and I'm using this this accessory piece, which is the fruit leather tray, but I use it for really small things as well, like quinoa. And it works perfectly. So when you put your quinoa on the tray, or your brown rice, any of your small grains, the most important thing is to make sure that you go around with your fingers while it's still fresh, and you sort of just like kind of do this motion, and you loosen it up. Make sure it's nice and loose on the tray, and that is so that you don't end up with a whole layer underneath that's still wet, and like the top will get dehydrated but the underneath won't if there's not sufficient air circulation. Like you want little air pockets so that the entire pile of stuff gets dehydrated. And that's basically my main tip as far as quinoa and small grains goes. So let's go ahead and get this into a jar. So basically this unpacking is something that I learned from watching Linda's Pantry, the channel Linda's Pantry. She does it this way. So I just have a sheet of wax paper here, and it is the same wax paper that I have been using for like months, honestly. It gets stored underneath the cutting board so it never gets dusty, and it doesn't get dirty, so I just reuse the same sheet over and over again. I don't know, but anyway, basically it makes it super easy. You can just take it and get the quinoa off. You still have to be a little careful, you know, because it's just going to go everywhere. And now here's your dehydrated quinoa, all handy on your wax paper. And then also the real first step to this process is I cleaned my counter, so my counters are freshly clean. So if I get anything on the counter, I don't feel bad about putting it into my jar. So this ends up being super easy now. You have the quinoa on your sheet, and Hopefully it's not, some of it came out the other end, but mostly it works really well. Just go right into that jar. And again, super clean counters, so I'm going to go ahead and just scoop that off and put it right in there. Now, just for my own reference, that was 2 cups of cooked quinoa, and it makes just over a cup of dry quinoa. So that's for me to know, so that when I'm putting together my instant dehydrated meals and I do, I portion it out, I know when it's rehydrated, it'll be about a cup of cooked quinoa if I use about a half a cup of the dry quinoa. So that's good not only for my own reference as far as the size of the rehydrated meal, especially if you're rehydrating in a little stainless steel cup. Oh wait, just a second. Go ahead and pause it. Like a stainless steel cup, like this one, which you might carry for backpacking or might be in your bug out bag. And it's super handy because it fits in the fiber box, like so. So it's not only good to know that you're not going to exceed the quantity of your rehydrating container, it's also good to know when you're planning out the calories and nutrition of your instant meals to know 1 cup of cooked quinoa has a certain nutrition profile. And so you can know for sure, okay, that's like 200 and something calories. It's, 9 grams of protein, it's 12% of your zinc. It's, you can start kind of planning that out when you're making your instant meals. And so I'm going to go ahead and empty the rest of the dehydrator of the quinoa. And I do know, because there's 5 trays of quinoa in here, it was 10 cups of cooked quinoa, and I'm interested to see if it is still pretty close to the 5 or if we're going to be getting closer to the 6. And as another aside, that's another reason I really love using ball jars in particular for storing this stuff, at least at first, because it has measurements right on the side of the jar, and then you know exactly how much you have. So, yeah. Okay, so when I wasn't talking about anything, it actually goes really fast. It took probably less than 2 minutes to empty the rest of those trays into this jar, and it is basically exactly 5 cups. It's like the exact 5 cup mark, so that is good to know. So it'll be about a half a cup of the dehydrated quinoa should make 1 cup of rehydrated quinoa, I hope. So we have that going, and now I have 4 trays of brown rice pasta. This was 2 pounds of brown rice pasta. I just cooked on the stove with boiling water. So get the water to a boil, add the pasta, I let it come back to a boil, and then I turn it down to like medium high on my stove. It's like a number 6. I don't know if that helps you at all, but it's a medium high setting. And I let it sit there for 6 or 7 minutes, or you just have to look at the package directions. And then you want it to sit in super hot water without boiling too much, and then you won't end up with all the horrible boiling over that a lot of times you get when you're using a brown rice pasta instead of a wheat pasta. Other than that tip for the cooking, I don't think there's anything else special. At the very end, I rinsed the pasta just to rinse some of that starch off to hopefully make it not so sticky in the dehydrator. The brown rice pasta in particular is extremely starchy when it comes out of the pasta water, so I like to rinse that off. You probably don't have to, and you probably don't have to if you're using a wheat pasta, but that's what I did for the brown rice. So basically, because obviously it's bigger, it gets to just go right on the tray. And so I have had one video where I've shown rehydrated brown rice pasta, and it turned out, really great. It rehydrated perfectly. And so this is going to be a little bit more of a thing. We're going to have to like unscrew some pastas from the tray. But basically it's the same exact process. You just get it onto this wax paper. Seriously, Linda, my gosh, Linda's Pantry. This is like such a game changer to this whole process. You have no idea how miserable it was before trying to figure out how to do this. And so, yeah, that's all. And it'll start going into a jar. And then I will get to measure what quantity ends up being in the jars, and I can do the same kind of figuring for calories and nutrition as far as the brown rice pasta, and do the math on that. So anyway, yeah, I'll go ahead and get this into the jar. Okay, I was going to do this off camera, but I realized this might be helpful to somebody. The easiest way to clean Sharpie off of jars or off of the lids is to just use like little alcohol, rubbing alcohol, or like an alcohol prep pad. I'm just doing this just for ease, but you can absolutely use just rubbing alcohol in a cotton ball. And look, it just comes right off. And it's just so fast and so easy. Sorry, you didn't even get the camera up there in time, did you? Okay, here. It's just like the easiest. And then you just quickly wipe that off with a little cloth or something, and there you go. Now you can relabel it. And yeah, it's really easy to do that. So yeah, there you go. That was free. That's a little tip. Okay, so now everything is in the jar. So it turns out that the 2 pounds of brown rice pasta split perfectly between these 2 jars at the 5-cup mark. So it's kind of funny. They're all 5 cups. But anyway, so now I know that, and I can look at the nutrition label on the pasta and the servings per container, and then kind of do the math on that. So say, pretend there's, you know, I don't know, pretend it's 10 servings per container, and that gives me the calories and the nutrition. Then that would be really easy math. It would be 1/2 cup of this would be a serving. Now, I don't know that that's true. I'm just telling you, like, for how you would figure that, again, for your meals. So my favorite place to look up nutritional information for items is actually chronometer.com. I'll put a link down below. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but that is the site that I use to track nutrition in my foods and whatnot whenever I do feel like I need to track and make sure that I'm still hitting my targets. At this point, I eat, I guess intuitively, like I get my nutrients. I definitely still have some work to do health-wise, but as far as like calcium, vitamin D, vitamin C, whatever, you know, like I hit my nutrient targets is what I'm saying. So that's a really great website to go to. And then your final bit of information, which is possibly one of the most important, so hopefully you're still watching, is after you've dehydrated your items, it is really important that they go into an airtight jar, at least at first. For a good 2 or 3 days, you want to have your dehydrated food in a clear glass jar. And the reason for that is if there is any moisture still in the food, it will form condensation on the inside of the jar, and then you'll be able to see it. It'll be a visual cue so that you know there's still moisture here, and you put it back in the dehydrator and dehydrate it. Now, for me personally, I tend to over dry things because I don't want to deal with that. I don't set a timer and do like only 6 hours or something. I dehydrate usually at least overnight, and then I get busy and I don't check it until like the afternoon. So also for my personal comfort level when it comes to dehydrated food and safety of dehydrated food, a lot of times they give you a temperature. Now, if you are dehydrating meat, I don't know, I'm glad you're watching my channel for one thing, I guess, but I obviously am not talking about like things like meat, because you have to dehydrate at an extremely high temperature for meat in order for it to be safe. And I actually don't even know any of that because fellow vegan prepper. So you have to find your information somewhere else. I'm sorry, but not sorry. But anyway, so a lot of times they give a dehydrating temperature, and so like 135 or whatever, but you can't, honestly, it's not necessarily an unsafe thing to dehydrate at a slightly lower temperature. And so I usually dehydrate a little less than what the temperature is called for because I want to avoid something called case hardening, which is where the outside of your item could get dry, but the inside stays moist. And if case hardening happens, it makes it virtually impossible to fully dehydrate the item because there's a hard outer shell which prevents the escaping of moisture in the item. So I tend to dehydrate a little lower for longer, and that is how I do all of my dehydrated goods. Again, speaking about things like grains and fruits and veggies, not other stuff that has like bacteria and crap, like, that other stuff that's not on this channel. So anyway, but yeah, so you do your conditioning, watch for 2 or 3 days. If it passes the test, then you're safe to go ahead and store in your Mylar bags with your oxygen absorbers and all of that for extremely long-term storage. We're talking at least usually 10 years on most items. Certain items, fruits, might not last as long, especially citrus does not have a very long shelf life. But that's where it's important for you to do your own research on shelf life of foods and find out. And then if you find out there's an ingredient that doesn't last that long, you can leave it out of your meal and then like add it in the moment when you're going to eat it, unless you're going to be eating it very soon, like you're particularly putting together meals for backpacking or camping or what have you. So I think that that about sums up this video. Please let me know in the comments if you have any more questions. Please like, comment, subscribe. And yes, it is definitely my desire to bring you a lot more content like this. This is the kind of content I really want to bring, but I need help to film these videos. So show some love in the comments too for my son Thad being my cameraman today. So anyway, yes, that's it. So as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. Haha! I didn't actually leave, of course. That actually reminded me, this is why it's so good for me to have help. I did not talk about why on earth would you pre-cook pasta? Like, it doesn't even take that long to cook. You're not saving any water, you're not saving any energy. Why on earth would you do this? And the main thing is just because you're wanting to potentially save that water and energy when you want to save the water and the energy. So this now basically has become an instant food, like the instant ramen cups, where all you have to do is pour boiling water over it and it will rehydrate beautifully. Actually, my video of the fridge, and it was a really long video, so there was a rehydrated meal in the middle of that video, and this pasta rehydrated absolutely perfectly, like still the spiral was there, and all we did was pour boiling water over top. And like I had no stove, and it was just, you know, really handy to have some on hand. So this is going to be making some instant pasta meals, again, either for bug out bag situation or a backpacking camping trip, or like my husband's lunch at work, you know, or like a night when all of a sudden I don't have a stove and I don't feel like going outside to sort of fire, and you know, anyway. And I boiled water in my Instant Pot and put it over the pasta. So there's so many reasons having instant pasta on hand is very handy. And with that, I will genuinely say goodbye. So yeah, thanks for watching.